Hello, folks. Welcome to our 2019 webinar series of the School Garden Support Organization Network. Today we're going to talk about summer camp programs at school gardens and on farms. My name is John Fisher. I'm one of the co-founders of the School Garden Support Organization Network. And today we're going to have two presenters, which I'll introduce in a moment. So quick introduction to who the School Garden Support Organization Network is. We used to be called the National School Garden Network, but we are a learning community of school garden support professionals. And we have a goal is to create dialogue among one another to better support regional-based school garden programming. You can find us at sgsonetwork.org. And here's a little summary of what we do. We have a robust online forum. We have about 500 organizations or people that engage on our forum. We run webinars. This is our third year going into webinars, and you could look forward to these topics in future webinars. We don't have our date set yet, but we're working on planning these right now. So creating culturally relevant lessons, instructional models, crowdfunding, building community engagement, gardening or SGSOs in northern climates, mobilizing and managing volunteers, school-based farmers markets, and youth enterprise. So we're working on those right now. If any of you are interested in presenting on one of these particular topics, please connect with us via our forum, or you can find me at lifelab.org. My name's John Fisher. I also want to let you know that all these webinars are put together through a collaborative effort, LifeLab being one of our organizations. And I'm having a message here that my screen is not being shown. So I'm going to make sure that you can see my screen. Show screen. All right. So hopefully this has worked here on my webinar slide. All right, so I'm going to continue, assuming you're seeing my screen right now about our webinar series. Great, I hear it's working. So once again, I was saying if you're interested in presenting on any of these webinar topics, please find me at lifelab.org or visit us on our forum. Whole Kids Foundation, LifeLab, and Big Green are kind of the volunteers that run this system of webinars. And I just want to give a shout out to Whole Kids Foundation. If you haven't visited their website, they are the largest grantor of school garden funders. The amount of grants they give out is larger than any other organization, and they have grants from salad bars to bees to school gardens. So take a look at that. All right. Another thing that our School Garden Support Org network does, and I notice here I have my old NSGN acronym, not SGSO acronym on my slide, but we gather at other national conferences. And this summer, we're going to be gathering on July 10th as a pre-conference networking dinner at the American Horticulture Society's National Children and Youth Gardening Symposium. Also, a workshop, a conference that you might be interested in is taking place in Oakland, May 16th through 18th. And it's the Children in Nature Network's International Conference. I know I'll be there along with some other SGSOs. So today we have two presenters. We'll have time for questions at the end. We have Erin Jackson, who's the Education Director at the Gallatin Valley Farm to School program, and Amy Carlson, my co-worker, who's the Garden Education Director at LifeLab. And we're gonna go deep to tell you tips and resources and ideas on how to create summer programming on gardens and farms and school gardens. So just a quick summary, why school garden programs or gardening programs in the summer? Well, first of all, we just want to continue teaching kids about all the great things that happen in school gardens. So where does your food come from, and science concepts, and all of the areas that we connect to kids in farm and garden-based education. Another reason why some of us might be running summer programs is a way to generate income. Camps in some communities are something that people will pay for, or you can find funding to provide free camps to your community. It's a good way to keep your staff employed over the summer. If they're engaged in school gardens during the school year, during the summer, you could shift programming and run summer programs. I put this next quote here: the gardener's shadow is the best fertilizer. A used garden is a loved garden, and no better way to come back to a great garden in the fall than having a garden that's being active and used during the summer. And then the last reason why is a unique way to train teachers in the summer. We once ran a program through my organization called LASERS, Language Acquisition and Science Education in Rural Schools. And the way that worked is we ran summer school garden programs in coordination with our migrant ed summer school programs. And teachers were paid through that program. And then we were training teachers to be effective outdoor science educators and to teach language acquisition for English language learners. So we were feeding like 3 birds with one seed. We were training teachers, running programs for kids, and then we were teaching science and language development together. So I'm going to pass off the webinar to Tristana from Whole Kids, and she's going to get a little idea about who is on our webinar today and some more tips about our webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Well, everyone, we are going to launch a poll. So if you could, you'll see a little poll jump up on your screen. And if you could tell us about you or your organization. We are wondering if you currently run or support a camp program at a garden, if you currently run or support a camp program at a farm, or if you run a summer garden program at a school, or if you run other summer programs at a farm, or just a general garden, not at a school. So if you could just let us know, it'd just be interesting to know who's in the room. We'll give you maybe like 15 more seconds to respond. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results just so we can see who's in the room. Awesome. So I'm going to apologize. The last answer was we're looking to run a program. So that's the majority of you. That's 50%. And then about a third of you are currently running a program at a school. 14% of you run a program at a farm. And about 6% of you run a program at I think I meant to say at a school. So to share just a little bit more as well, just kind of fun to know, we had about 430 people sign up for this webinar. So that's really exciting within our massive network. About 45 people from 45 different states, as well as London, registered for the webinar. And then we have about, between everyone who's registered, about 7,300 gardens that you all maintain. So it's just really interesting to see kind of who's in the room, who's registered, and how big our network is just within this particular topic. So John, if you could throw your slides back up and we'll talk through a couple of housekeeping items. So you all, there's kind of 2 ways we'd like to interact with you today. First and foremost, we want you to ask questions. We want a really great interactive time. We're going to leave some time at the end for questions. So if you could, you'll see a question box in the control panel of your screen. If you could type any questions as they come up, and we'll be organizing them at the end. If we don't get to your question, not to worry, we will have a report of all the questions and we'll follow up with you. In addition to the question box, so the question box we really want you to use if you have a specific question to ask us for the end, but there's also a chat section. Definitely utilize the chat section. We encourage you to share your name and where you're from, and maybe it's a chance to connect with someone in your community, or someone new who's not in your community. We're really, at the end of the day, through this network, seeking to create opportunities for you all to connect with each other. So again, there's a chat and a question section, but please only use the question section for asking questions. And then finally, there will be a recording of this webinar. You will get a link to that recording in the follow-up email if you have to jump off early or if you want to share it. And there will also be a copy of the recording on our website. Great. Well, I'll hand it back to you, John.
All right. Well, I want to introduce my coworker, Amy, who's right here in screen. And she's going to start us off by sharing a little bit about the camps that we run up at the LifeLab Garden Classroom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy, and I work at the LifeLab Garden Classroom here on the UCSC farm in Santa Cruz. And I run our summer day camp programs, our school year field trip programs, and our internship program. LifeLab is a nonprofit with a mission to cultivate children's love of learning, healthy food, and nature through garden-based education. We're in our 40th year this year. We're located on the University of California, Santa Cruz farm, and we've been running summer camps since 1998. We started off serving just 5 kids for 1 week the first year, and then grew over time, and now we serve 330 campers each summer over about 8 weeks. The income from our camps helps support other work year-round. You can learn more about our year-round work at lifelab.org. We determine our pricing by keeping an eye on what other camps are charging in our community, and we keep our fees in the middle to upper middle range in line with other high-quality camps. And we set aside 5% of our projected camp income for financial assistance based on need to make camp possible for a range of families. Each summer, we offer 4 programs that all run simultaneously for 8 weeks in 4 2-week sessions. Our main 2 camps are Wildlands and Watering Cans Camp for 7 to 11-year-olds and Garden Sprouts Camp for 4 to 6-year-olds. Wildlands and Watering Cans runs 9 to 3 Monday through Friday for 2 weeks. Garden Sprouts is a shorter day, 9 to 1, and kids sign up for either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday for 2 weeks. Our Owls are 12 to 14-year-olds who assist with Garden Sprouts Camp, and our Eagles are 15 to 18-year-old youth volunteers that assist with Wildlands Camp. We plan our camps around the combination of a strong daily routine so that the kids know what to expect, and a different theme each day. For example, Dirt Day, Birds Day, Flowers and Herbs Day, or Secret Treasures Day. Each session runs the same exact curriculum all summer, so kids sign up for just 1 session of camp. We rotate our camp curriculum on a 4-year cycle for Wildlands Camp and on a 3-year cycle for Garden Sprouts Camp, so that if campers return to camp every year, which many of them do, they'll see and do different things each year. We also offer the option to sign up for aftercare for 2 hours after each camp. Here is a sample camp schedule for the campers, which we send to families before camp starts. We couldn't quite get all of week 2 on here, but you can see the daily themes and the special days. Wednesdays are hike days, and Friday of week 2, the campers harvest and prepare a farmer's market for their families. And at 2 o'clock, families come. Each group performs a camp song or 2 on stage, and families get to buy veggies to take home. Each camp has its own daily routine with some overlap. Both camps start the day with the same morning song. Then Garden Sprouts harvest in the garden and make snack first each day before eating together at our camp circle. Wildlands start off with chores and tend to make food later as part of their activity rotations. Both camps include activities based on the theme of the day: chores, music, and storytelling. Wildlands Camp also includes a counselor's choice hour and a group meeting. Here are a couple examples of a day's schedule at the Garden Sprouts Circle. We write out our schedule simply with words and pictures to help campers understand who may not be able to read yet. And we always set out storybooks about the day's theme to have them handy before camp starts and at snack time. We do age-appropriate chores at camp that help kids feel like they're a part of caring for the garden. For 4 to 6-year-olds at Garden Sprouts, they make a group bouquet their first day at camp. The kids choose the flowers, the counselor cuts them, and they all go into one big mason jar together to decorate the camp circle. Garden Sprouts also water the garden with milk jugs. We drill holes in the lids of the milk jugs, and they're perfect watering cans. The Sprouts get to decide where they want to water, even if that means watering a rock. They do deadheading, which the kids like just because of the name of it. And they harvest herbs from the garden to put in a big pot of hot water to make tea for everyone. For the 7 to 11-year-olds at Wildlands, campers make popsicles that will be eaten at story time at the end of the day. They care for the chickens and the worm bins, and they do a weather report or farm update and farmer interview. Here's some Garden Sprouts enjoying the tea they made from the garden with mint, lemon balm, and lemon verbena. And here's some Wildlands campers doing the weather report. They take readings of temperature and air pressure and observations of cloud cover and wind and come up with some very creative forecasts. Then they present at snack time, complete with commercials for such things as gopher pajamas. The farm update and farmer interview chore includes interviewing a farmer and turning the interview into a skit, also to perform at snack time, also with commercials. And campers make popsicles every day from strawberries grown here on the farm, picking lemons and berries to add as well. Here they are grinding the strawberries, and that is actually a meat grinder, which makes a perfect strawberry grinder. And there they are enjoying the popsicles in the shade of a big tree during story time at the end of the day.
Hey, that's my kid.
My tiny garden is one of our favorite garden snacks to make with our campers. Before camp starts that day, we stock a picnic table with all the supplies for each group, as you can see on the little sample setup card up top. The campers start off with a garden walk with their counselor, and the counselor asks them to look around in the garden. What are the parts of a garden? They might notice plants, pathways, trees, soil, flowers. The counselor lets them know they will get to use their imaginations to create their own mini gardens and then eat them. They then find and harvest small amounts of whatever is ready to eat in the garden. For example, a kale leaf, a calendula flower, a carrot, or a cucumber. You can see our camper Mateo is pretty excited about the kale leaf he picked. Then they wash hands and veggies before going to the picnic table. Once there, the veggies go onto platters in the middle of the table, and the counselor gets out a rice cake and spreads it with hummus and asks, if this was our tiny garden, what part of the garden could this be? And the kids will usually say that's the soil or the dirt or the ground. The counselor continues to add new items, each time asking, what could this be? Campers often decide that broccoli florets are trees in the garden, and lines of sesame seeds from a bowl on the table could be paths. There's so many possibilities. The counselor demonstrates how to cut a bit of pepper, tear a bit of spinach, or break a piece of broccoli to use. They also demonstrate how to hold a vegetable using a claw-shaped hand while cutting with a sawing motion, claw and saw, to cut things that need to be chopped. We use Curious Chef nylon knives, which are great for cutting veggies and not fingers, but we like to teach simple knife skills from the beginning, even when using the child-safe knives. The counselor then talks through how the children can cut a piece of a vegetable for their own use and then put the rest back on the platter for others to use. They then give each child a rice cake spread with hummus, and the kids create their tiny gardens. Every garden comes out completely differently. As the campers are finishing up their gardens, the counselor asks if any children would like to show and describe their tiny gardens to the group. We then load up the gardens on a cookie sheet and bring them to our camp circle for snack, where we enjoy them together along with a story. What makes camp feel like camp as opposed to a school field trip here in the garden? There are some overarching qualities of camp that make it a unique experience in the garden. Most importantly, camp is built on a spirit of fun and play, pretending to be beekeepers, wearing a rhubarb leaf hat, treasures, forts, imagination. One playful activity we do at camp, for example, is called Sneaky Seeds. We give the campers seeds, usually for things that are easy to grow, like bachelor buttons, calendula, sunflowers, or pumpkins, and tell them to go plant them wherever they want. And they sneak around planting seeds in secret. And we mean truly they can plant them wherever they want, because even if that's in the middle of the path, under a rock, or anywhere else, it results in them just being so delighted to have that freedom. The rains take care of the watering, and sometimes the next spring we have some surprises. You never know what will happen. We like to watch what kids love and incorporate it. For example, we noticed that they loved our wood chip pile, especially when there were a couple of straw bales next to it, which they could climb up and jump off into the wood chips. So now we maintain a tall wood chip pile on purpose and keep a few extra straw bales stacked in a pyramid next to it for jumping. It's a very popular spot at camp. Working together, kids work together to make things happen at camp, whether it's each group chopping a different fruit for the fruit salad for snack, then putting them all together, or helping each other find animal tracks. Here are some Wildlands campers harvesting veggies together for the last day farmers market and the beautiful display they made for the veggies. Exploration and adventure. Camp is full of games, time spent exploring the farm and the surrounding wild areas, tree climbing, spontaneity, and open-endedness. For example, the group is on a leaf scavenger hunt, but they happen to find a farm cat. Well, now it's going to be all about the farm cat for a while. One of my favorite memories from camp is when campers discovered that the water draining from our hand washing sinks, which was just meant to water a tree, could be channeled into a river. And this led to days and days of campers returning to make new pathways for the water, float things down it, create dams and bridges, and have a great time getting pretty dirty. This was not an activity we would have thought of for them, but it was possibly the best activity that summer. Sensory exploration and mindfulness are a big part of how we connect to nature at camp. One sensory game we love to play is called Run and See. We play it out on the farm where there's room to run. The whole group counts down from 10 as one camper runs ahead. The camper stops when they get to 0, and the camper uses their senses to find something special to share with the group. When they found that something, they give a thumbs up, and the group runs to catch up, and the camper gets to share what they found. Each child gets to be a teacher, and the game gets us from one place to the next as everyone takes a turn. Storytelling and music. Storytelling and music are a big part of our camps. Our staff work hard to learn and practice stories to tell at lunchtime or popsicle time. We love oral storytelling, and we find or modify traditional stories that include themes from the garden, or we tell stories from our own lives. The kids sit rapt with attention, sometimes forgetting to eat their lunches. Middle, you can see John telling a story that involves a square egg. The kids all had to get in really close to see the actual square egg. We also use music to bring magic to camp, singing with our campers first and last thing every day at snack and lunch, and even during activities. Last summer, I put a strap on my ukulele so I could just keep it on my back all day, ready to play music at any opportunity. At Garden Sprouts, we do an end of the day song that invites campers to sing about their favorite things from the day. Camp staffing and training. We invest a lot in our summer staff. We have 6 paid staff for each camp, including 2 directors and 4 counselors. In Garden Sprouts, each counselor works with 6 campers, and in Wildlands, each works with 8 campers. Plus, we have a paid aftercare leader and a part-time Friday assistant and camp shopper. We also have the owls, the eagles, the interns, and volunteers helping out at camp. Our paid staff are experienced. Often they've been interns in our field trip programs or worked at other camps. They're all certified in first aid and CPR, and they attend 5 days of training at the beginning of the summer. All the volunteers and the staff together attend a day of training that includes training on inclusivity, safety and emergency procedures, and positive discipline. Based on the Positive Discipline books by Jane Nelson, and I especially recommend Positive Discipline in the Classroom, the book for using at camp. Then the staff attend 4 more days of training that week on camp curriculum, food safety, cooking with kids, games, songs, storytelling, etc. And training continues as camp rolls all summer, with time built into setup and cleanup times for daily check-ins, staff team building, and positive discipline training exercises. So how do we get kids here? We get the word out about our camps through emails, social media, paid advertisements, and flyers. We no longer have to do any of this for our older kids' camps because the campers age out of Garden Sprouts and go right into Wildlands the next year, filling it easily. So all of our advertisements target the 4 to 6 year age range, and many kids stay with us year after year. For registration, we use ActiveWorks and have for the last several years. It's an online registration system which collects all the info we need as well as release forms that families sign online. It handles payments, it limits the number of registrants in a session, and most importantly, it has the capacity for about 150 people all to register at once the instant our registration opens in early March. Then later we can generate reports and emails to families from this system. If you're interested to know more, you could visit our new camp resources page to see free resources such as activity videos, song videos, and camp schedules. And if you'd like even more info about our camp content and how it works, we've just almost finished compiling a camp resource package, including dozens of documents on activities, detailed schedules, training info, health and safety, parent communications, camp human resources, recipes, journals, games, and lots more. And starting about in mid-April, you can purchase this on the camp resources page. LifeLab also offers curriculum guides, which are available and linked to on that page as well. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Erin, and I'll take your questions at the end.
All right, so we're going to transition to Erin, and she's going to get herself on mute and say hi, and we're going to learn a little bit about a program that runs based on school sites. Erin, take it away.
Perfect, thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Erin Jackson and I'm the Education Director with Gallatin Valley Farm to School. And we're a Bozeman, Montana based organization. And we run year-round programs, but what we're going to focus on today is our summer programs. You can go to the next slide. So Gallatin Valley Farm to School was founded in 2008, and since then we've grown to be an organization with the equivalent of about 4 full-time staff members, as well as a food corps member and about 10 interns per year. And the garden-based summer camps, I actually started when I was a food corps member back in 2013 was our first summer, and I started them at a school site that I was working with, and purely because everything was starting to grow and be ready to be harvested, and all of the kids were leaving for the summer. And I said, wait a minute, this is when we actually want kids to be in the gardens, because we have about a 90-day growing season in Montana, so a little bit different than California. So I started the gardens, or the summer camps, and our first summer we had 3 children, and it was in partnership with our local 4-H chapter and an ag teacher from Eastern Montana who I had met at a conference. So we led 2 successful weeks with 3 kids and 4 kids in the next session. The following year, we were up to 8 campers in 2 sessions, and from there it has only grown. So you can go to the next slide. So this year is our 7th year of leading our garden-based summer camps, and we have 6 weeks of camp this year, 5 week-long sessions and 1 new 3-day session. And we serve incoming kindergartners through 5th graders with our camps. And our camps are broken up into different age ranges, which you can find on our website linked below. And we do this to be both age appropriate in the topics we want to cover, and also to accommodate siblings in different sessions and have enough variety so that we can see campers multiple years. The time of our camps is 9 to 3, and we have gotten feedback that this isn't long enough for a lot of working parents, but unfortunately we're constrained with staff time and the use of the school site as well. And we still are able to fill up all of our camps with that time frame. We also have a youth leader program for 6th to 9th graders. A lot of these are former campers who come back in more of a mentorship leadership role, and they teach the younger campers the same concepts they learned as when they were campers themselves. Next slide. So in order to promote our camps, we are new enough that we still do need to do some promotion, but the community does know about the camps enough that they fill up pretty well. So we build a flyer every year and hang it around the community. I also send home flyers with our school partners. So if you work in a school with classes already and want to host a garden camp, I'd recommend seeing if you can send home flyers with those same students. We also do a bit of paid advertising in a local parenting magazine and at a summer camp event. And then we do free promotion via social media and on all of our community calendars. For registration, we are small enough. We serve about 90 kids a summer. So we're small enough that we can still get by with the Google Forms sheets. And when families fill it out, it converts into a spreadsheet. And so it's really easy and user-friendly. And then we have a separate payment link through our organization platform. Our registration opens in mid-February, and we do it a little bit earlier just because that's when a lot of other camps open up as well, and we want to kind of be in the running before kids' summers fill up. We also offer need-based scholarships, and that's just a separate Google form that parents will fill out when they apply for camp. Next slide. So for our staffing, we have a little bit of a different model because we are a smaller organization. For each camp session, we have 1 paid staff plus 2 to 3 interns or food corps members or volunteers. So for a session of 16 kids, we have 3 to 4 staff. So it's about a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 camper to staff ratio. All of our staff and interns are certified in first aid and CPR, and they receive training and teaching observations on outdoor education, outdoor classroom management, cooking with kids, gardening skills, and a field trip to a bunch of our local farms just so they can get a better idea of the local food system. And our system has worked really well. There are definitely some considerations when you're determining whether you can have paid staff or run more intern volunteer program. And I would say the benefits of doing it with interns is that for a small organization, it's much more financially doable. We also have developed a great partnership for training food educators for credit. So it's kind of a win-win because students are getting credit and we're able to staff our camps. And we're able to train 3 to 5 interns per summer, each summer. So we're expanding our kind of the mission of our work by being able to see so many students come through our program and train them before they kind of get into the professional world. Some of the limits of using interns and volunteers primarily is that often folks come in with limited experience in gardening or cooking with kids. And so more supervision and more training is required at first, but they learn very quickly. We also do have turnover each year because a new group of interns will come each year. And sometimes scheduling constraints if interns also have another job. But it's been a great program and great so far, so it does work well. And my advice would be to train, even if you're just having interns and volunteers, train them really well and set clear expectations for what you're hoping they will be there for this summer. Next slide. Another way our programs differ from LifeLab's is that we don't actually have a site with school gardens, or with gardens, and so we run all of our camps out of school gardens. And this year we might be running one of our camps out of a new community garden in town as well, but I'll talk about the model of using school gardens. So there are some things to think about when you're determining if a school site is right for your camps. The first being to make sure you sign a facilities use agreement or a contract with the school district. So this is something I have to fill out, and I request the dates that we want to be at the school and then get it approved. And we actually do have to pay a small fee for using the school site because there does have to be a custodian on staff at all time when we're there. And the first couple of years of leading the camp, we were actually all donation based. And so because we weren't charging a set amount, we didn't have to pay the facilities use fee. So that's something to look at as well. The basic necessities for determining a site for a garden program are listed right here. A couple important ones, the shade. So a lot of our schools are new enough that they don't have large trees for shade yet. So one thing we've done is we just bring in the pop-up tents. We get a couple of those and we put picnic tables under them. And we do have to move them over the course of the day as the sun moves, but it does work really well for us. And then you do need to have maintained gardens, obviously, or you could have the kids plant them, but it is nice to have something growing. So you do need to think a little bit ahead. And then just access to your watering hose and your shed. So you can see these are 2 different schools pictured here. And they just have very different models in terms of where the kids sit and all of that. But make sure you have access to the key that you need before administrators leave for the summer, and then also storage for camp supplies. And so some benefits of having a program at the school gardens is that it engages kids in school gardens during the growing season. At least in Montana, that's when we have our growing season. It also gives them heightened ownership and responsibility over the gardens for when they return back to school in the fall, so they can tell their friends, hey, I planted that kale this summer, and they're really excited about it. It provides maintenance for the gardens, which increases support from administration, and it makes families more familiar with the school gardens and more interested in helping out over the summer and throughout the year. Some challenges with the school garden site are, number one, construction or anything happening at the school. This year, we're actually losing one of our favorite campsites to construction, so we're going to have to find a couple other gardens to use. So just make sure you know if construction is happening, and also make sure you have access to the gates. So often schools will lock the gates in the summer and keep the public out over the summer. So we've had to get special keys and learn the code of the gates so we can get in during camp weeks. We've also had issues with the doors of the school being locked. So now we make sure we always get a key and that the doors are programmed to open an hour before and after our camp. And then another constraint is just there are specific hours when custodians are present. So just you might have to work around that. But overall, it's been a great model, and we love being able to use the gardens when they're otherwise not being used. Next slide. So partnerships have been really important in us being able to create these camps as a small organization. So I have a list of partners here. So I would encourage you to go out and talk with your community, see if there are experts who would want to come and do a presentation, see if there are farmers who would let the students come out to the farm, and that sort of thing, because that really helps bring a lot more variety and community aspects to the camp. Next slide. So our daily schedule is listed here. For each camp, we follow the same general schedule, but there are different activities and different themes for each of the camps and age groups. And like LifeLab, we also do a theme of the day, which may be bugs or plant parts or seeds or soil. And our activities are kind of structured based on that theme. We do structure in a lot of time for the kids to run around and do some unstructured and structured play time, so making sure there's lots of physical activity integrated in with the gardening and the cooking tasks. And with our camps, we do make an afternoon snack every day of the week in all of the camps. Next slide. So we also write the schedule out for campers to see every morning. And on the right here is the schedule that I create for our staff. So they see that a week in advance, and it has some of the instructions for activities and then all of the materials in one place. So it's a nice way to have, if we do have a variety of staff, we can make sure that everybody has the schedule. Next slide. A couple of special parts about our camp is that because we are at school garden sites, we don't produce a ton of food. So we go out with all of the week-long sessions to a local farm, and the kids harvest food, and that's when we purchase a lot of the food that we then use in cooking projects throughout the week. So we go to goat farms, we go to vegetable farms, we go to greenhouses, and that's a great way for kids to see agriculture on a larger scale and connect into the local food system to build support around local agriculture. One challenge of farm field trips is the transportation, but we've been able to rent vans from other nonprofits to use to drive the kids. Next slide. We also have parent presentations on the Friday of every camp session. So the parents will come at 2 o'clock and we'll put on a presentation, celebration, and feast. And depending on the camp, the presentation is going to be a little bit different, but the kids have been working on something to present all week. So this could be a skit or a song. In our Sprouting Scientist camps, it's presenting the science experiments they've been working on. In Seed to Snack camps, it's a farmer's market that they put on. And then each of those also include a buffet style meal where the campers recreate all of the snacks they've learned how to make throughout the week, and then the parents get to try them. And this is a really great way to engage the parents and show them that, hey, their kids actually are eating vegetables, and help transfer some of that knowledge and those new habits home. Next slide. One of our sample activities that we do in every camp is garden journals. And all you need for this activity is construction paper or even any kind of recycled paper bags as the outside. And then we use 5 pieces of computer paper per journal. And we use these journals every day of the week. On the first day, the kids go out to the garden and they harvest flower petals or leaves or seeds. They find things that they glue onto their journals and make them their own. And then we'll use them every day of the week. We'll put the recipes in them. We'll do magic spot observations in the gardens. We'll do leaf drawings, just kind of anything we're doing the garden journals are a nice way to tie it all together and have somewhere for them to record what they're doing. And then we've gotten feedback from parents that the kids will bring their garden journals home and they'll keep talking about the things that they learned at camp throughout the year, and they'll make the recipes because they have copies of them. So it's a really nice way to extend the learning from the camp. Next slide. So this is a list of some of our camper-approved recipes that we make. Pesto zoodles are spiralized zucchini with homemade pesto. And we vary the recipes each week based on what's seasonally available, because we do have more variety at certain times of year. But these are some of our favorites. You see, we have garden on a cracker and spring rolls, popsicles, and then the pesto zoodles. And I'm happy to share recipes or other recipes if folks are interested. Next slide. So what makes our camps feel like camp? Next slide. So our camps take place entirely outside, and they're all based around having fun. So there's lots of time for campers to play and be silly and enjoy one another outside, taste sour rhubarb, all those fun things that you can do at camp. Next slide. We also leave time for games and unstructured play. So they'll get kind of a recess time to play on the playgrounds during part of the day. We'll do some structured running games. They'll have time just to explore. We'll run in the sprinkler in the afternoons, those kinds of things. Next slide. We also make a large focus on teamwork and community. And so at the first day of camp, we'll develop a camper contract together with expectations for the week. And that builds a really nice community of campers who work together. And we, as you can see in some of these pictures, we do different parts of the recipes to create something all together. So really just working together. Next slide. And then wonder, exploration, and creativity. So we give campers lots of time to explore the gardens, see the bugs and the worms, see what's growing, look at spider webs, anything that's happening. So we try to build that exploration and that wonder. Next slide. And lastly, the summer's for getting dirty. So we get our hands dirty looking for worms, we plant, we get our hands dirty making kale salads and all sorts of things. And so it's just a great time for kids to be learning and having a lot of fun and leaving with new skills and knowledge. And so now I think we're gonna go to questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin, and thank you, Amy, as well as John, for such a beautiful jump into summer programs. We are now going to leave some time for questions. Some of you have already asked some questions, but if some more questions come up, please do type them into the question box on your control panel of GoToWebinar. We're going to start with the first one. So what kind of advice, and this could be for either of you, LifeLab or Erin, what's some advice for how to utilize the garden during the summer when you lack funds for a summer program?
I can answer that. This is Erin from Gallatin Valley Farm School. We, at some of the gardens where we don't hold summer camps, we'll set up just parent volunteers, so families who sign up for a week, and each week they can come and they get to water, maintain, and harvest from the gardens. And we do kind of volunteer training, just a couple hour orientation of the garden, and then families can come throughout the summer and stay engaged. And we'll also do things like community work days over the summer, or other programming where kids from a separate camp, like a YMCA camp, will get dropped off at the garden, and then we'll lead just a 2-hour program that doesn't require as many resources as a full week of camp.
And I just wanted to add, can you see me or hear me, hopefully? Okay, you can hear me. just starting small. As you heard from both me and Erin, both of our camps started really small, small scale, small number of kids. We also have been connected with organizations that do summer camp in the garden, or not summer camp, summer enrichment programs for the children at the school out in the garden. So that's another kind of hybrid approach that has kids who are already going to be in summer school utilizing their school garden in the summer.
Put you on your face. Sure.
Great, thank you both. What software do you use, if anything, to manage camper registration?
Shall I take that first, Erin? Okay, so we use ActiveWorks, which I described a little bit before. That's an online camp registration system that kind of manages all of the data that's collected during the camp registration process. And it's easy to send out emails to all of the camp families from and generate all the reports, like our check-in lists and our emergency information that we have to carry around, information on all the kids during camp.
How much does it cost?
Oh, it does have a fee associated with it. It's somewhere between $5 or $8 per registration, plus they take about, I think, 4% on every credit card charge. Yeah. How about you, Erin?
So we use a free Google form. So if you have a Gmail account, you can just link up a Google form, and you essentially create a questionnaire, and then you send the link out, and then people can fill out. So that's where we collect all the information from families for the registration, and it inputs directly into a spreadsheet. So then from there, I'm able to add when they pay. So I can type that in directly, and then I can filter it and put together our medical forms that we bring for camp. So it's maybe, it's not all done for me, but it's very simple and free to use. And then we have a payment form through Little Green Light, which is our organizational platform for all of our payments.
Awesome. Really appreciate hearing the spectrum of options. Great. So do either of you charge for the camps, which I think you might have already covered, but there is a question on that. And do you have a sliding scale for payment?
Okay. Do you want to go first, Erin?
Sure. We do charge for our camps. As I said, the first year when we were just starting out, they were all donation based. Now we do have a lot more overhead being part of an organization, so we do charge. Our camps are $250 for a week, but we do have need-based scholarships, and those families can apply for, and we'll give out based on their amount of need.
Great. And for LifeLab camps, we have, like I said, we kind of base our fees on the kind of middle to upper middle of the range of fees that other camps charge in our community. And so we do 2-week sessions only. And right now, our biggest camp, our Wildlands camp, that's 9 to 3, Monday through Friday for 2 weeks, that's $690 for the 2-week session. But and then the other camps are all different prices from there, depending on how long the kids are here. But the financial assistance application is just in our regular application process. It's some of the questions that families fill out. They can opt out by selecting no, they don't want to apply for financial assistance, or they can easily just fill it out right there. And we set aside 5% of our projected camp income every year to help families that need a little help getting to camp at all levels, from full scholarship aside from their first $50 deposit, all the way to just a little bit of help to make camp doable for them. So this year we had about $7,000 to help families that needed it.
Yeah, and we'll generally put about $1,000 towards scholarships.
A kind of follow-up question from that: how do you determine the need for scholarships, or how do you determine who receives the scholarship?
Right. Well, I can answer for us. Part of the questions that they fill out have to do with family income, child I'm not thinking of the word, any income that they have, and they send in proof of income, either their combined family W-2s from the year before or their tax return, first 2 pages. And then they have just a box they can type into, like, what are your family circumstances? What are the number of kids in your family? Tell us anything that you think we need to know. And we get families applying who have a huge variety of circumstances that would cause them to need a little bit of help getting to camp. And so the downside of that is that it's a pretty subjective process. There's no just 1 or 2 numbers that we can base everything off of. So we sit down with a huge spreadsheet of everyone who's applied for financial assistance, and we look at what we have, and we look at what they say they can afford, and we look at what we can give everyone and determine from there.
We follow a very similar method.
Great. And kind of a very connected question, how do you ensure that you are recruiting equitably and serving students who come from all backgrounds, not just from a need-based standpoint, but just from all different walks of life in your community?
We send out flyers to all of the schools that we already have partnerships with, and those are primarily our Title I schools in our community. And so we're, I guess, reaching a range of students that way. We also partner with some of the school districts' parent support networks. So we have a program called Thrive that has parent liaisons, and so we'll contact them, and they'll actually give us they might give us ideas for other folks who they think could benefit from our camps. And so we try to really reach out into the school district and all the public services that are available and see if there are students who we could provide aid to so that they could attend our camp. And then other than that, we really put our camps out widely in the community in the parenting magazine. That's where all of the summer camps in Bozeman are listed. And so we hope that way, we're able to really promote them to everyone in our community.
Mm-hmm. Very similar here. One example being that we will give flyers to kids who come on field trips to the garden classroom. And our field trip program is about half the participating schools come for free or half price on financial assistance. And so those flyers go home with kids from every demographic in Santa Cruz.
Great, thank you both. We continue to have some really great questions. How do you all plan for unfavorable weather when you want to be outside with the kids?
That happens, especially June in Montana. We had 2 camps last year that got rain almost every single day. So we always have a bunch of back pocket backup activities in case we can't be out in the gardens. And for one of those camps, we ended up moving into a school classroom that we had already reserved just as a backup. So if you are using a school building, make sure you do have somewhere you can go. And so we're inside, and we could still do all of our cooking activities, and we just had to get a little bit more creative with some of the running games when it was really, really pouring. So yeah, just have a lot of backup activities that you can do in the event of poor weather, and have a space to go would be my words of advice.
Yeah, and those pop-up tents are invaluable on a rainy day. It doesn't typically rain in Santa Cruz in the summer, but we have had it rain on the very first day of camp a couple of times, which is interesting. And we are pretty much just out in it, and then maybe taking shelter where we can under the various sheltered areas of the garden. For example, I guess right now we're going to go see what's growing in the greenhouse.
Yeah, and we will stay out in the rain. It's just if it's thunderstorming, we'll get more covered.
Yeah, and we also do, John is reminding me, keep a stock of ponchos on hand that we use in our field trip programs over the winter that we can throw on all the kids if needed.
I love that reminder that you're in the garden and you can get wet too, as long as you're, being safe and covered, not getting too wet. It is warm outside after all. Awesome.
And having, one thing to add is having things like tea on hand are great. We'll make sun tea, but if it's raining, the sun's not necessarily out, but we might boil some water and just do some herbal tea if it's chilly and rainy. So yeah, just having some of those things if you need them.
Any advice for project-based and inquiry-based teaching during camp?
I wonder if you want to speak to that.
Well, I'll start. We do most of the parent presentations we do are pretty project-based, especially our Sprouting Scientist class camp that's focused on designing a science experiment. And so we'll lead kids through just a basic kind of scientific method, and then they'll actually get to choose a topic for their science experiment after we've gone through that process and kind of go through all the steps of it. And so the last 40 minutes of the day, they're just, they're doing their science experiment just with guidance from us when needed.
And I'll share, a few years back, we ran multiple summers of a program called Avance, and it was actually for middle school students that were at risk of retention from not going to the next grade level. And it was ran through Migrant Ed through the school districts in Salinas. And the kids would come and residentially, it'd be a residential program where they'd stay on campus, and they had their whole program where they'd operate on campus, but we ran the garden section. So this was an example of us pairing with an existing summer school type program. The kids came down and we just ran pure science inquiry with them on their visits. They'd come down 2 days a week for about 3 hours. And in addition to doing gardening type activities, we would set them up with materials to explore, whether those were worms or roly-polies or snails. And it was just pretty much setting up a pure inquiry experience where they would play with animals and or plants. And then their instructors, their teachers, these were classroom teachers that were getting hired over the summer to run this program. They would work with the kids to help create experiments, and we'd run them over a 3-week period. And then on the 4th week, we'd have a party and all families would come, and we'd run a family science day where the kids would share their reports. They'd usually make like science fair type display boards based on what their snails did. I would say that was a lot of work because the kids were only coming twice a week for 3 hours, which is a good amount of time for them to be coming as part of their program. But we were keeping snails alive over the days they weren't there. And snails actually are really stinky and they eat a lot. So we learned a lot about caring for snails. But the kids did come up with some incredible questions, your typical kind of science fair questions around garden themes. And so that was very exciting to run with the kids, but just beware running pure inquiry where kids are fully creating their questions could put a lot of work on your staff to maintain their experiments if the kids aren't around all the time.
Great, thank you. What did you find to be the most challenging factor in starting your program?
I'll start. I started the camp in '98. Our camp was actually ran in the 80s as well as a student intern project from UCSC. And someone said, hey, let's run this camp again. And I was the staff person there. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And our hardest part was getting people to show up. It was the advertising. There was already such a great camp scene. Our farm is kind of hard to get to. People didn't really know of us as being a kids garden venue at that time. So our hardest part was the publicity. And we did do a lot of the, we ran PSAs, we sent flyers to all the schools in Spanish and English. We did display ads in the local print publications that would cater to parents. So it was the advertising. So like marketing a program at the same time as trying to prepare for a program, and then balancing how many kids do we have versus how many staff do we need. But now we're at a different space.
I think the most challenging part with running our camps has been the staffing and being an organization with a pretty limited budget, just being able to put on a really high quality camp with high quality staff, which we have done, but it just requires a lot of training and a lot of recruitment for interns and for volunteers, and just ensuring that they are equipped to be able to do a good job with our camps. And we've gotten to the point where now that's not a problem anymore, but just starting out, just kind of balancing the budget and staff time.
Great. Well, we're just about at time. There are a couple more kind of specific questions for each of the presenters that I will send to both of them, and they will follow up with you via email, concerning some specific resources that they just want some more clarification on. But otherwise, I just want to say thank you to Amy, John, and Erin. This has been really fantastic deep dive into summer programs. I hope you all have felt the same. And again, there will be a survey when you close out of the webinar. If you could please let us know what you thought. And you will receive a link to a recording of the webinar in your follow-up email. So thanks for joining us, and have a good rest of your day. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.